Hey YouTube, this is City Prepping. In this video, what I'm going to do is walk you through a quick update on our side project, our side yard project, where we're essentially trying to build out these garden beds. We'll set up chickens. We've got rain harvesting right here behind me. I've done a video a couple of weeks ago where I talked about the initial stages where I created the blueprint. And in this video, what I'll do is I'll give you an update on the progress. And again, the point of these videos is not so much of an informational how-to, but is more kind of a showing you what I'm doing. My hope is that I can encourage you to do the same. We're heading right in the spring, right around the corner. Fortunately, I live in zone 9 here in California, so I've kind of got growing season all year round. But what I'm going to do is show you the progress that we've made from the last video where we talked about creating a blueprint. If you want to check that video out, I'll post a link up in the cards, whichever site it is. Again, I worked with the YouTube channel Provident Prepper. They were laid out a blueprint to help us get started. I am in talks with them to see if they'll do a video explaining how to do a blueprint so you guys can follow along if you want to create one. But I'll finish up this video at the end and I'll talk about a little more in a second to encourage you, no matter where you are, if you're just starting out and you're not sure how to do this, just just start somewhere. Even if it's container garden, if it's just a small bucket, the goal here is to just start somewhere. So what I'll do is I'll show you the update. If you remember on the last video, I talked about the different zones that we kind of created, I think 5 or 6 different areas where we're planting different beds, and I'll show you the progress. Now, when we first started out, we had these beds, and if you probably remember from the video, they had some plants in it, but we took those out. We've redone the soil completely, and you'll notice that the yard is, if you look here, it's kind of a brown all around. And initially in the last video, it was much lighter color. What we did is we took all the soil out from the previous bed and we put it in the yard because it was kind of just junk soil. We weren't getting a lot of good results. So we ended up contacting a local nursery and they gave us some different options on the type of soil to do gardening. So we got 5.25 yards. We had that delivered Tuesday. So I had me and my sons, we went through and wheelbarrowed all this back. We did also add in a couple of beds over here, and I talked about that in the last blueprint video. And before we put in the soil though, I did put hardware cloth, and I'll put some photos of that. I apologize, probably should have done some videos showing how to put that in. But essentially I did that to keep, rodents, gophers, stuff like that from being able to burrow under. I will be putting in kind of a feral cat. You can get them at your local animal shelters. I'll have a cat that will go out here that will help, deal with the rodent population. We had gardens last year and we were just constantly overrun by rodents. And so we're going to get a cat to come out here, or put it out here to help us with that situation. And by the way, I want to point out these cattle panels. You probably notice these sitting up here. What we're going to be doing are these 2 beds behind us, or behind me here. We're going to build arches over, it's hard to do this looking at the camera, but we're going to create 2 arches. And we're going to use the cattle panels to create arches for vining plants that can go up, cantaloupe and other type of stuff. And what we'll do is we'll use that as opportunity for them to grow up and over, provide some shade for some of the plants. What else have we been working on? Now, if you remember in the previous video, I did talk about we will be using this area right here to put in different types of vining plants. We've got some different things that we've ordered. And these 2 beds right here, and I'll probably provide a kind of a drone view of these are going to get the most sunlight. So we'll use these to put in the plants that, tomatoes and other things that want the most sun. Now, these 2 beds over here, this one in particular doesn't get a lot of sun, so we'll use this for kind of our leafy greens. We'll put those type of items in that, things that just don't need a lot of sun. And this one over here does get a little more sun, so we'll be adding different types of, plants that need a little more sun. And over here on this side, we've been adding different types of vine plants, and we'll be adding a lot more. We'll be putting trellises in here on these fences and, start planting these here, the different type of plants. And we've been enriching the soil in this area as well. And let me point out one other thing here real quick. You'll notice on the end of these beds, let me come down here. We've got some lavender, I believe it's this lavender, or did I get it back? Rosemary and lavender. And the goal is to be able to bring in, pollinators, bees, stuff like that. Normally these are kind of surrounded by bees. Last year when we had our gardens, we had a lot of issues with pollination, and we just really wanted to draw in the different types of bees and stuff to help pollinate the plants. So I'll bring you over here, and by the way, in the last video I talked about trimming this orange tree, and it's done really well. I was afraid I might have trimmed it too much, but overall it's done really well. Now, if you remember in the last video I talked about putting in rain gutters. Let me see if I can angle that up. You'll notice now we have a rain gutter coming down, and it's now going to be connected up here pretty soon to this 250-gallon IBC tote. And I'll start actually collecting rainwater here so we can use it for gardening. And then I'll be putting fresh water in these tanks and covering these up pretty soon to keep them out of the sun. You'll also notice that I did pull out the irrigation lines. If you notice here, these are kind of sitting on the side. And what I'm going to be doing is over the next, probably this weekend actually, I'll go through and we're going to redo this whole area. We're going to use drip lines. We originally were thinking about using a PVC pipe approach that I used at our last property in the garden. But after a few subscribers emailed me suggesting just stick with the drip, you get a much better water distribution. You get it, right on the roots. You don't have to deal with a lot of the problems that come with the, irrigating with the PVC pipes. So we decided we're going to stick with drip. So thanks to everybody that's been just, again, sending me different information. It's been really helpful. And again, you'll see the different types of plants. So let me bring this down here. My wife has been doing, setting up all these starter plants, been getting them. We've got a lot of little greenhouses around the house. We're using these for our starter seeds, or rather to get the seeds started. And, you can check these out. They sell these on Amazon. It's your local, probably Home Depot or Lowe's. But these are really good to just put seeds, stick it by a window. You can put water in the bottom, and you get your different seeds going. Now, I'll talk about these two books here in just a second at the end. And let me flip over here to the chickens area. Now, what we've done since the last videos, I've gone through and we put a lot of clover and just a lot of grass seeds. You can't really tell, we only put those in a few days ago, but hopefully we'll get those growing out here in the next 10 days or so. And we'll use this. Once we get that going, we'll stick a chicken coop over here, and then we'll put a fence along this area to keep the chickens enclosed. So the chickens have been doing great. I'll put some footage of those guys, but overall they've been growing, no issues. I'll probably do a video here soon about raising your own chickens. Extremely easy. Just pretty much feed them and give them water every day, and that's mostly, they pretty much take care of themselves. Now let me, I'm going to swing over here. There's a couple of books I'm going to recommend. This one has been recommended to me in the past. It's called Carrots Love Tomatoes. And this is good for companion planting, explaining how different plants go together. They provide different nutrients to each other, and they just help stimulate growth. In the past, we've just kind of randomly planted different plants, but this one, my wife's been studying this pretty exhaustively, and she's been working on setting up a pattern of what we're going to be doing and where we're going to be putting different plants in the beds. And for those that are starting out, this is a book I always recommend. This is one that actually helped me a lot, the All New Square Foot Gardening, and this is by Mel Bartholomew. And I'll put a link to that Amazon where you can, Amazon link where you can pick that up. When I first got into gardening years ago, this one really helped a lot, and it just kind of takes you through everything A to Z rather, and just show you everything you need to know and explain it all to you. Now, I will point out one thing. This bed right here, I just put this one in. And this is actually the wood from my very first bed, the very first garden I ever created. And I'll post a link up in the cards above to that video. If you're not sure where to start or you want to get into square foot gardening, again, I'll post a link to that video. It's a video I did years ago, didn't get a lot of views, but I think it's really solidly done. I would highly recommend you watch it if you're starting out. It just explains how to make these beds. But overall, that is where we are today. We're going to be setting up the irrigation. This weekend, I'll be continuing to do updates over the next few weeks as we get everything set up. The next big project is the chickens and getting these, the rain harvesting set up. And of course, putting in the plants, getting the irrigation set up. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Springtime always feels overwhelming because there's so many different types of projects that you want to get done while the season is, warming up, while things are getting ready. So if you have any feedback, if there's anything you see, anything you would recommend, I always encourage getting feedback from the community. There's one thing I forgot to mention. I do have a tumbler in the back for compost. Admittedly, I haven't had great results with it, but a subscriber sent me a link to a product called Home Biogas. And I'm going to be checking that out here pretty soon. It's a product that's essentially like a big stomach that you throw food into. It produces methane gas that you can actually use to cook with, and it produces fertilizer that you can use for your garden. So I'm going to reach out to that company because I've just never really had great luck with composting, and hopefully that will help us with our gardens. But again, if you see anything or there's anything you recommend, always welcome feedback. You can always send an email to contact, or rather cityprepping@gmail.com, cityprepping@gmail.com. and always look forward to getting information from those that have experience with gardening. I'm still a learner. Still, there's a lot I'm trying to figure out, but the key is just start. If you're new to this and you're not sure where to begin, just start. There's been so many times where you kind of get the sense that you just got to get everything figured out before you start, and a lot of times people just get froze up and they don't do anything. But I would encourage you, start on this path towards self-sufficiency and understanding where all your food comes from. So again, if you have any feedback or thoughts, please post those below. As always, stay safe out there.